Have you ever looked at your dinner plate and thought, I've been eating this way for decades, so it must be good for me, right? For most of us, vegetables have always been the hero. We were told, eat your greens. They'll keep you young, strong, and sharp. And for a while, they did. But here's the truth most doctors won't tell you. Your body at 70 isn't the same as it was at 30. Quietly, your digestion slows. Your kidneys tire. Your bones need more support. Medications you didn't take before now interact with nutrients you always trusted. And the vegetables you once praised, some of them might now be quietly working against you. In today's video, we'll uncover 10 vegetables that seniors should be cautious with, not to scare you, but to help you feel better, move steadier, and live longer. You'll learn why certain healthy foods may now trigger joint pain, kidney stress, blood sugar spikes, or even medication imbalances. And more importantly, how to keep them on your plate safely. What if that healthy-looking lunch you make, that crisp green salad with eggs, walnuts, and a big handful of fresh spinach, isn't as harmless as it seems? If you're over 60 and eating raw spinach every day, you may want to pay close attention to what I'm about to share. Spinach has long been seen as a superfood. It shows up in diet plans, hospital menus, and even our childhood memories. Think Popeye flexing his muscles. And yes, spinach is packed with vitamins A, C, and K, along with magnesium and iron. It's a nutrient powerhouse. But here's what most people, especially older adults, aren't being told. Spinach is also one of the highest oxalate-containing vegetables we commonly eat. Oxalates are natural compounds found in plants. Inside your body, they combine with calcium to form tiny crystals. Over time, these crystals can grow into something much more painful: kidney stones. Now here's where it matters most for seniors. As we age, our kidney function naturally declines. We're more likely to be dehydrated. We may be on medications like diuretics, and our calcium absorption slows down. All of that makes it easier for those little crystals to build up and harder for the body to flush them out. According to Harvard Medical School, just 1 cup of raw spinach contains over 650 milligrams of oxalate. That's more than 6 times the recommended daily limit for individuals at risk of kidney stones. But that's not the only concern. Spinach is also extremely high in vitamin K1. While that's great for bone health, it can be a dangerous mix if you're taking blood-thinning medication like warfarin. Too much vitamin K can interfere with how your medication works, increasing the risk of blood clots or internal bleeding. So that smoothie or salad you thought was boosting your health, it could actually be reducing the effectiveness of your prescription, and you wouldn't even know it. Now don't worry. This isn't about cutting spinach out of your life entirely. It's about preparing it in a way that supports your body as it changes. Dr. Meredith Sloan, a geriatric nutrition specialist in Chicago, says this: spinach isn't the enemy, but for older adults, eating large amounts of raw spinach daily can backfire. Lightly cooking your spinach is a simple and powerful way to reduce oxalates and make its nutrients easier to absorb. In fact, studies show that steaming or sautéing spinach can cut the oxalate content by more than 50%. That means your body gets more of the good stuff, without the hidden risks. Let me tell you about Carol, a 72-year-old retired librarian from Ohio. For years, she made a big spinach salad for lunch every single day, but she started noticing bloating, lower back discomfort, and fatigue. After a routine checkup, her doctor found early signs of kidney strain. He suggested she cut back on high oxalate foods and switch to cooked greens. Carol began sautéing spinach into her morning omelet and pairing it with salmon or cottage cheese instead. Within 2 months, her digestion improved, her energy came back, and her blood work showed a clear improvement in kidney function. As Carol put it, "I didn't give up spinach. I just started listening to what my body was trying to tell me." So how about you? Have you been eating raw spinach every day, thinking it was the healthiest choice? Are you on blood thinners or have a history of kidney stones? If you said yes to any of that, let us know in the comments. Your experience could help someone else connect the dots and make a smarter choice. And if this part of the video gave you new insight, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more people find the information they need to live stronger, longer, and smarter after 60. We just talked about spinach, a leafy green most of us trust without question, but spinach isn't the only vegetable that carries hidden risks for aging bodies. Let's move on to another star of the health food world, one that shows up everywhere from green juices to detox bowls to air fryer chips. It's kale. If spinach wears a cape, kale probably wears a crown. Over the last 2 decades, kale has gone from a forgotten garnish to a full-blown celebrity on American plates. It's loaded with vitamins A, C, and K, fiber, and antioxidants, and it's often praised as one of the most nutrient-dense foods on earth. So why is it on this list? Because as good as kale is on paper, it comes with a surprising catch. Kale belongs to a group of vegetables known as cruciferous vegetables, like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts. These vegetables all contain natural compounds called goitrogens. Now, what are goitrogens? Simply put, they interfere with your thyroid's ability to absorb iodine. And iodine is essential for your thyroid to function properly. When your thyroid doesn't get enough iodine, it can slow down, leading to symptoms like fatigue, weight gain, dry skin, and brain fog. The tricky part is this: as we age, the thyroid naturally slows down for many people. So if you're eating large amounts of raw kale every day, especially in smoothies or salads, you may be putting extra strain on a gland that's already working harder than it used to. And that's not all. Just like spinach, kale is also high in oxalates, which means it shares a similar risk of contributing to kidney stone formation, especially if you're prone to them or not drinking enough water. Now, let's take a breath here. This doesn't mean kale is bad. It means the way you eat it matters more as your body changes. Dr. Alice Morgan, an endocrinologist in Seattle who specializes in aging and hormone health, explains it best. She says, kale is absolutely beneficial. But if you're over 60 and consuming it raw every single day, especially in smoothies, you might be unintentionally suppressing your thyroid function. Cooking it even lightly can reduce goitrogens significantly and make it much gentler on the body. So what should you do? If kale is a part of your routine, great. But instead of drinking it raw every morning, try lightly steaming it and tossing it into a soup or stir fry. You still get all the nutrients, but in a way your body can handle more comfortably. You can even saute it with garlic and olive oil or bake it into crispy chips. Just don't make raw kale your default every single day. Let me give you a real example. Sam, a 68-year-old retired teacher from Oregon, reached out after noticing that his energy was dropping and his sleep was getting worse. He thought it was just aging, but after talking to his doctor, he realized that his daily kale smoothies, meant to boost his health, might actually be the culprit. He made one small change, switching from raw kale to cooked. He still eats it regularly, but now it's part of a warm soup or a sautéed side. Within weeks, his digestion improved, his energy returned, and his sleep deepened. In his own words, "I didn't stop eating clean. I just learned to eat smarter." And that's really the message here. Kale is still a great food, but as your body changes with age, so should your approach to food. The goal isn't to cut things out, it's to make them work better for you, not against you. Now, before we move on, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed changes in your weight, energy, or mood, even when you thought you were eating all the right things? If so, drop a comment below. You might be surprised how many others are in the same boat. Let's keep going. Because the next food on our list is sweet, familiar, and full of tradition, but it's also surprisingly hard on your gut. Corn is more than just a food. For many of us, it's tradition. It reminds us of family cookouts, buttery corn on the cob in the summertime, popcorn with grandkids during movie nights, and warm cornbread at the dinner table. It's comfort, it's familiar, it's everywhere. But just because something feels comforting doesn't always mean it's comfortable for your body, especially after 60. Let's talk about corn and how it can quietly disrupt digestion, spike blood sugar, and cause problems for people dealing with conditions like diabetes, irritable bowel syndrome, or mild colitis. Here's what makes corn tricky. Each kernel of corn is wrapped in a tough outer shell made of insoluble fiber, the kind that doesn't break down easily. When we're young, our digestive system is strong and efficient. But as we age, our enzyme production decreases, our gut slows down, and breaking down foods like corn becomes harder. That's why so many older adults feel bloated or gassy after eating corn, even when it's cooked. And if you've ever noticed whole corn kernels showing up in your stool, that's your body waving a white flag, saying, "I couldn't finish the job." But digestion isn't the only concern. Corn is also a high-starch vegetable, meaning it's packed with carbohydrates. And while carbs aren't the enemy, the kind of carbs in corn are broken down quickly into sugar, leading to sharp spikes in blood glucose. That's especially risky for people managing diabetes, pre-diabetes, or insulin resistance. Now, it's true that whole corn is much better than processed forms like corn syrup or cornmeal, but even whole corn in large portions or when eaten frequently can be too much for the aging digestive system and blood sugar control. Let me give you an example. Linda, a 66-year-old from Kansas, wrote to us after dealing with bloating for months. She loved corn, ate it in chowders, salads, and even mixed it into casseroles. Her doctor couldn't find anything seriously wrong, but suggested trying a low-residue diet for a few weeks. When she cut out corn, the difference was immediate. Her bloating reduced, her energy came back, and she no longer felt heavy after meals. Eventually, she reintroduced small amounts of corn, this time steamed and paired with leafy greens and lean protein, and her symptoms stayed under control. So does this mean you need to give up corn entirely? Not at all. The key is moderation and smart pairing. Instead of making corn the centerpiece of your meal, think of it as a side. Choose whole corn on the cob or frozen kernels over corn chips or syrup. Steam or boil it rather than frying. And pair it with foods that slow digestion, like protein, fiber-rich vegetables, or healthy fats, to help balance your blood sugar and ease your gut. Let's be honest. After 60, digestion isn't quite as forgiving, but with a few small adjustments, you can still enjoy the flavors you love without the discomfort that follows. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt bloated, sluggish, or just off after eating corn? Maybe it was corn on the cob or popcorn during a movie night. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Drop a comment below and share your experience, because your story could help someone else feel seen, understood, and supported. Coming up next, we're looking at a food that seems innocent, even healthy. It's tiny, it's green, and it often finds its way into sandwiches and salads. But for older adults, it might be carrying some hidden risks you don't want to ignore. Now, if you've ever cooked Mediterranean-style meals, maybe a lemony chicken dish or a warm lentil stew, chances are you've come across Swiss chard. It's a gorgeous leafy green with bright red or yellow stalks and big crinkly leaves that look like they came straight out of a garden magazine. It's one of those vegetables that makes you feel healthier just by looking at it. Rich in vitamins A, K, and C, loaded with antioxidants, and often praised for supporting bone and immune health. Swiss chard has earned its spot on many superfood lists, but as we've learned in this series, not all superfoods are created equal, especially when you're over 60. Swiss chard, as beautiful as it is, shares a hidden trait with spinach and kale. It's very high in oxalates, and just like those other greens, when oxalates accumulate in the body, they can bind to calcium and quietly form crystals. These tiny crystals can then grow into something far less beautiful: kidney stones. Now, if you've never had a kidney stone, consider yourself lucky. They're painful, stubborn, and for older adults, potentially dangerous. And if you've had one before, you know the fear of it coming back. Swiss chard might not seem like the culprit. It's often tucked into quiches, sautéed with garlic, or added to grain bowls, but when eaten raw, especially in large amounts, it delivers a hefty dose of oxalates right to your system. This doesn't mean you need to avoid it completely, but it does mean that preparation and portion size matter more than ever. Cooking Swiss chard, whether by steaming, boiling, or sautéing, can help reduce its oxalate content significantly. Even just lightly wilting it can make it easier on your kidneys and digestion. And because it's naturally a bit bitter, cooking also mellows the flavor and makes it more enjoyable for most palates. There's also the question of balance. If you're already eating other high oxalate foods, like beets, almonds, or spinach, adding raw Swiss chard on top of that could quietly tip the scales. Elaine, a 70-year-old from Northern California, used to juice Swiss chard several times a week. She thought it was keeping her healthy, until she started having lower back pain and fatigue. Her doctor traced it back to oxalate buildup, and after switching to cooked greens and spacing out her intake, her symptoms faded away. As she told us, "I still eat my greens, I just stopped trying to impress my blender." That's the heart of it. We don't need to eliminate nutrient-rich foods like Swiss chard. We just need to treat them with respect, especially as our bodies become more sensitive to how we digest, absorb, and react to what we eat. And speaking of raw vegetables that seem light and healthy, the next one is small, delicate, and bursting with freshness. It shows up in sandwiches, on salads, and in grain bowls. But for older adults, it may be hiding something you'll definitely want to know about. Let's talk about sprouts. They look so fresh, don't they? Tiny green threads, delicate stems, a symbol of vitality. You see sprouts tucked into turkey sandwiches, scattered on avocado toast, or topping fancy salads at health cafes. For many, they represent clean eating, simple, light, and alive. But what most people don't know And what every older adult should is that those little sprouts might be carrying something far less innocent: bacteria. Sprouts are grown in warm, moist environments, and unfortunately, that's the same environment that bacteria like E. coli, Salmonella, and Listeria love to thrive in. Even with careful washing, it's nearly impossible to eliminate all the bacteria because the contamination often happens inside the seed before it even starts to grow. Now, for a healthy 20-something, eating raw sprouts might just lead to an upset stomach or a day of discomfort. But for someone over 60, especially if you have a weakened immune system, digestive issues, or take medications that affect gut health, foodborne illness can quickly become serious. According to the CDC, there have been over 30 major outbreaks in the U.S. linked to raw sprouts in the past few decades, and seniors were among the hardest hit. Hospitalizations, dehydration, even long-term gut damage have been reported, all from a handful of seemingly harmless sprouts on a sandwich. And here's the tricky part. Because sprouts are marketed as a health food, people often assume the more, the better. But when it comes to raw sprouts, especially for aging bodies, more can mean more risk, not more benefit. Now, that doesn't mean you have to give up the flavor or the texture you love. There are safer ways to enjoy that same crunch and still keep your gut and immune system protected. The first step is simple. Don't eat sprouts raw. If you love mung bean sprouts, toss them into a stir fry or soup. The heat will kill off harmful bacteria while keeping that satisfying bite. Second, consider safer alternatives. Microgreens, like pea shoots, radish greens, or broccoli microgreens, offer a similar fresh feel, but they're grown in soil or under controlled conditions and carry a much lower bacterial risk. They're also packed with nutrients and easy to grow right on your kitchen counter. We recently heard from Lucy, a 75-year-old retired nurse from Arizona. She used to add raw alfalfa sprouts to her turkey sandwich every day, until 2 episodes of stomach cramps and 1 unexpected ER visit changed everything. Her doctor suggested switching to cooked mung beans or microgreens. Since then, no more pain, no more fear, and she still gets the crunch she loves. Lucy told us, "I used to think raw means clean. Now I think safe means smart." And she's not alone. So let me ask you this. Have you ever felt unexpectedly sick after eating something light and healthy? Maybe it was a salad from a deli or a sprout-filled wrap at a trendy lunch spot. Tell us your story in the comments below. Your experience could help someone else avoid the same mistake, or feel a little less alone if they already have. Up next, we're going to shift gears from tiny greens to a big, fluffy favorite. It's warm, comforting, and loved across America. But for older adults, it can spike blood sugar faster than you might think. Let's talk about potatoes. Few foods bring us more comfort than potatoes. Whether they're mashed, baked, roasted, or crisped into golden fries, potatoes are part of the American table. From holiday feasts to weeknight dinners, they're warm, filling, and familiar. For many, they're also nostalgic. The smell of hash browns in the morning, the crunch of potato chips during a family road trip, the buttery fluff of mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving. But while potatoes have earned their place as a comfort food, they're not always comfortable for your blood sugar, especially as you age. Here's why. Potatoes are classified as a high glycemic index food, meaning they're broken down into sugar very quickly in the body. This causes a rapid spike in blood glucose, and if you're managing diabetes, pre-diabetes, or even just trying to keep steady energy levels throughout the day, that spike can cause real problems. Mashed potatoes in particular break down even faster than whole potatoes. Add in butter, cream, or gravy, and you've got a blood sugar roller coaster. And then there's frying, whether it's French fries, tater tots, or hash browns. High heat cooking not only adds extra fat and salt, but also creates a chemical called acrylamide, which has been linked in studies to an increased risk of certain cancers when consumed regularly over time. And yet, it's hard to imagine giving them up. After all, potatoes aren't just food. They're part of our memories. They comfort us, and at this stage in life, comfort matters. The good news? You don't have to give them up. In fact, with just a few smart tweaks, you can enjoy potatoes without the blood sugar crash, the gut discomfort, or the long-term risks. If you're someone who loves potatoes, and let's face it, who doesn't? Stick around. Because coming up are 3 simple tricks to keep the comfort, but ditch the harm. First, choose the right cooking method. Boiling or baking your potatoes at lower temperatures can help preserve their nutrients while avoiding the harmful acrylamide that forms during high heat frying. Second, pay attention to portion size. A fist-sized serving of potatoes is usually enough. It satisfies the craving, but still leaves room on your plate for fiber-rich vegetables and lean proteins that help slow down digestion and keep your blood sugar steady. Third, don't eat potatoes alone. Combine them with leafy greens, beans, or grilled chicken. The added fiber and protein help buffer the starch, turning a blood sugar spike into a more balanced release of energy. Take Gerald, for example, a 78-year-old from Florida who loved his fries. He used to eat them 3 times a week until his doctor warned him about rising blood pressure and early kidney strain. Gerald didn't cut potatoes out completely. He switched to boiled red potatoes with herbs, paired them with greens and grilled salmon, and noticed big improvements in just a few months. His blood pressure came down, his energy went up, and he didn't feel like he was missing anything. Gerald told us, "I still enjoy potatoes. I just respect them now." And that's really the key. Potatoes aren't the villain, but the way we prepare and pair them after 60 matters more than it ever did before. Now it's your turn. Have you found better ways to enjoy potatoes without the guilt? Maybe you swapped fries for roasted sweet potatoes, or found that smaller servings leave you feeling better. Share your tips in the comments. Someone else might need to hear what worked for you. And next, we're diving into a vegetable that seems small and innocent, but could quietly be making joint pain and inflammation worse, especially if you've ever dealt with gout or arthritis. Let's take a closer look at peas. They're small, sweet, and often one of the first vegetables we feed our kids. Peas feel harmless, tossed into soups, mixed with rice, or served as a gentle side dish next to mashed potatoes. They're soft, affordable, and full of memories from family dinners. But for adults over 60, especially those dealing with joint pain or a history of gout, peas might not be as innocent as they seem. Here's why. Peas contain moderate to high levels of purines, natural compounds found in many foods that, when broken down, turn into uric acid. In a healthy body, uric acid is filtered out by the kidneys. But when there's too much of it, or when the kidneys aren't as efficient, which often happens with age, that uric acid can start to build up. The result? Sharp, sudden flare-ups of gout, painful swelling, especially in the feet, ankles, knees, or fingers. And anyone who's had a gout attack knows it's not just discomfort. It can be downright debilitating. James, a 67-year-old retired mechanic from Colorado, wrote to us after experiencing 3 gout flare-ups in 1 year. He'd always loved peas, added them to almost every meal, thinking they were a safe vegetable. But after his doctor flagged purines as a possible trigger, James made a few small changes. He replaced peas with green beans and steamed zucchini, kept his portion sizes smaller, and added more water and fiber to his meals. The gout flare-ups, they nearly stopped. Now that doesn't mean peas are off limits for everyone. They still offer fiber, vitamin C, and plant-based protein. But if you're prone to joint pain or uric acid issues, it's smart to treat peas less like a vegetable and more like a starch. That means keeping portions small, around half a cup, and balancing them with other gut-friendly foods. Pair peas with high-fiber ingredients like lentils, leafy greens, or whole grains, and include a protein source like salmon or grilled tofu. These combinations help slow digestion, reduce blood sugar spikes, and may ease the load on your joints. And remember, frequency matters. Eating peas once or twice a week in thoughtful portions is unlikely to cause problems for most people. But adding them to every lunch or dinner without thinking can slowly stack up the purine load. So before you reach for that big spoonful of peas, just pause and ask, is this serving helping my body or adding strain to it? What about you? Have you ever noticed joint pain after eating certain foods, even ones you thought were healthy? Or maybe you found a way to keep your favorite vegetables without triggering inflammation. Share your story in the comments. Sometimes the smallest tweaks and the smallest vegetables make the biggest difference. Now, next up is a vegetable that looks refined, elegant, and clean. You've probably had it roasted with dinner or grilled beside salmon. But if you're not careful, it can quietly dehydrate you and stir up the same uric acid issues we just talked about. Let's take a closer look at asparagus. Asparagus is one of those vegetables that just feels classy. It shows up beside steak or salmon in upscale restaurants. It's beautifully plated, drizzled with olive oil, maybe a squeeze of lemon, and it's often seen as a clean green, light, refined, and good for you. And in many ways, it is. Asparagus contains vitamins A, C, E, and K, plus folate, fiber, and antioxidants that support immune function and healthy aging. It's low in calories, high in nutrients, and easy to prepare. But like every vegetable we've covered so far, the story shifts a bit when you're over 60. Asparagus, despite its health benefits, is also moderately high in purines, those same compounds found in peas that break down into uric acid. For people with a history of gout or joint inflammation, asparagus can quietly contribute to flare-ups, especially when eaten in larger portions or too frequently. Now, for most people, a few spears of asparagus with dinner won't cause any issues. But for those who are sensitive or who already have elevated uric acid levels, even small additions can push the body over its limit. And there's one more thing about asparagus that deserves attention, especially for seniors. Asparagus is a natural diuretic. It encourages the body to release fluid, increasing urine production. In younger bodies, that's not usually a concern. But in older adults, especially those already taking medications like water pills or managing blood pressure, that extra fluid loss can lead to mild but significant dehydration. Dehydration might sound minor, but it can affect balance, energy, memory, and even blood pressure stability. Many seniors feel tired, dizzy, or forgetful, not realizing that part of the reason could be as simple as not replacing the fluids lost during meals with high diuretic foods like asparagus. We heard from Sylvia, a 70-year-old from Pennsylvania who shared her story with us. She had started eating roasted asparagus almost every night, thinking it would help her lose weight, but instead she noticed frequent fatigue, lightheadedness, and dry mouth. After speaking with her doctor, she increased her water intake and cut back on asparagus to just twice a week. And the difference was noticeable almost immediately. Her energy returned, and so did her focus. As she put it, "I thought I was eating light, but my body needed balance more than restriction." So if you love asparagus, don't worry. You don't need to cut it out. Just keep a few things in mind. Eat it in moderation. A few spears are plenty. Stay well hydrated throughout the day, especially if asparagus is on the dinner menu. And consider pairing it with hydrating foods like cucumber, watermelon, or broth-based soups. That way, you still get all the benefits without silently draining your system. Now I'm curious, have you ever experienced fatigue or dizziness after eating a seemingly healthy meal? Or maybe you've already learned to balance certain foods with more water or fiber. Let us know in the comments. Your experience could make a real difference for someone else. And up next, we're shifting to something a little different. It's not quite a plant, not an animal, but it's found in almost every fridge in America. Mushrooms are earthy, rich, and full of flavor. But for seniors, they come with risks few people talk about. Stick with me. You might never look at them the same way again. They're rich, earthy, and full of umami. Mushrooms have become a go-to ingredient for anyone looking to add depth and flavor to their meals, from hearty stews to veggie burgers to fancy omelets. And nutritionally, they bring a lot to the table. Mushrooms are low in calories, high in B vitamins, packed with antioxidants, and even offer some immune-supporting compounds. But despite all that, mushrooms, particularly for older adults, carry a few risks that often go unnoticed. Now, to be clear, we're not talking about wild mushrooms foraged from the forest. Those come with obvious dangers. We're talking about store-bought varieties, button, cremini, portobello, the kind you find in every grocery store. Even these common mushrooms contain natural toxins, such as hydrazine derivatives, which may cause digestive irritation in some people if eaten raw. These compounds are generally present in small amounts, but over time, and especially when mushrooms are consumed uncooked, they may contribute to discomfort, inflammation, or other longer-term issues. And then there's the matter of digestion itself. Raw mushrooms are dense and fibrous. For older adults with slower digestion or who take medications that affect gut health, mushrooms in their raw state can lead to bloating, gas, or a general feeling of heaviness that lingers long after the meal is over. Cooking mushrooms, whether sautéed, roasted, or added to soups, helps break down these tough fibers and neutralizes those natural irritants. It makes them not just safer, but also more satisfying and easier on the system. But perhaps the most overlooked concern is how mushrooms interact with medication. Certain types of mushroom supplements, like reishi, lion's mane, or chaga, have become popular for their brain-boosting and immune-enhancing claims. But what most labels don't mention is that these extracts can affect how the liver processes medications or interfere with blood pressure and blood-thinning drugs. Doris, a 72-year-old retired teacher from Vermont, shared her story with us. She had started taking a mushroom-based immune booster every morning, hoping to stay healthy during flu season. But within weeks, she noticed unusual bruising, dizziness, and low energy. Her doctor discovered that the supplement was amplifying the effect of her blood thinner, putting her at serious risk of internal bleeding. She stopped the supplement, switched back to eating cooked mushrooms in moderation, and the symptoms disappeared. In her words, "I thought natural meant safe, but now I know. It's not that simple." So what's the takeaway? Cook your mushrooms. Whether you saute, roast, or simmer them, heat makes all the difference. Keep portions moderate. A handful in a stir fry or soup is usually enough. And if you're thinking about taking mushroom supplements, always talk to your doctor first, especially if you're on medication for heart health, blood pressure, or blood thinners. Now let me gently ask, have you ever tried a supplement or made a dietary change that didn't sit right with your body? Maybe it promised energy or clarity, but delivered something else. If so, feel free to share your story in the comments. Sometimes the most powerful advice doesn't come from doctors or experts, but from people just like you. And coming up next, we turn our attention to a leafy green that looks delicate, tastes peppery, and is often featured in fancy salads. But for older adults, arugula may not always be as innocent as it seems, especially if you're managing certain conditions that most people don't associate with salad at all. Let's explore what's really behind that sharp little bite. It's light, crisp, and has a peppery kick that wakes up any salad or sandwich. Arugula, or rocket, as it's sometimes called, has become a favorite in modern kitchens. You'll see it scattered across flatbreads, piled into grain bowls, or tossed with lemon and olive oil as a starter at your favorite restaurant. And for good reason. Arugula is packed with vitamins A, C, and K, along with calcium, potassium, and antioxidants that support heart and bone health. It's low in calories, rich in flavor, and adds texture to just about anything. But behind that bold bite is something worth understanding, especially as we get older. Arugula belongs to the cruciferous vegetable family, the same group as kale, broccoli, and cabbage. And like its cousins, arugula contains goitrogens, compounds that can interfere with the thyroid's ability to absorb iodine. This may not be a concern in small occasional servings, but for people with hypothyroidism or borderline thyroid function, eating large amounts of raw cruciferous vegetables regularly, including arugula, can add stress to an already sluggish system. Most people wouldn't think a handful of salad greens could affect hormone levels, but when you eat them raw every single day and your thyroid is already under pressure, those subtle effects can add up. The result? You may notice your energy dipping, your weight creeping up, your hands and feet feeling colder than usual, and not know why. That's not all. Arugula's peppery flavor comes from natural sulfur compounds, which are beneficial in many ways. They support liver detox and may even help fight inflammation. But in sensitive digestive systems, especially in older adults with conditions like IBS or acid reflux, those same compounds can cause gas, bloating, or discomfort when eaten in large or raw amounts. None of this means arugula is bad for you. In fact, when prepared mindfully and eaten as part of a balanced diet, it can be an excellent addition to your meals. But like everything else we've covered, how you eat it matters. If you love arugula, try wilting it slightly with warm grains or folding it into soups at the very end of cooking. That softens the fibers and reduces the impact on your digestive system. If you're managing thyroid issues, check with your doctor or dietitian about how much raw cruciferous vegetables are safe for you. And balance them with iodine-rich foods like eggs, seafood, or seaweed. Marcia, a 69-year-old from North Carolina, used to eat arugula salads every day for lunch. But after noticing fatigue and a drop in body temperature, her doctor checked her thyroid. The numbers were borderline. Marcia made a simple switch. She still enjoys arugula, but now adds it to warm dishes, steams it lightly, and rotates her greens with spinach, lettuce, and herbs. The result? Her energy came back, and so did her confidence at the table. Marcia said it wasn't about cutting things out, it was about tuning in. And that might just be the lesson behind everything we've shared. You don't have to stop eating the foods you love. You just have to eat them in a way that loves you back, especially as your body changes, your needs evolve, and your wisdom deepens. So there you have it. 10 vegetables, each packed with nutrients, each praised for their benefits, but each carrying hidden risks when we stop listening to what our aging bodies are trying to tell us. And if there's one message I hope you take with you, it's this. The foods that made you feel strong at 30 may need to be adjusted at 70, not because you're weaker, but because you're wiser. This isn't about fear. It's not about restriction. It's about relationship. Your relationship with your body, with the foods you love, with the years of experience and awareness that brought you to this very moment. Aging doesn't mean giving things up. It means giving yourself permission to eat in a way that supports who you are. Now, you're not alone in this journey. There are millions of others just like you, quietly figuring it out, adjusting, learning what works, and together we can make that process gentler, smarter, and maybe even a little more joyful. So I'd love to hear from you. Have you changed how you eat your vegetables as you've gotten older? Did one of the foods we talked about today surprise you? Leave a comment below. Share your experience. You never know who you might help just by speaking up. And if this video helped you see your plate a little differently, give it a like. Share it with someone you care about. And don't forget to subscribe Golden Wise Elders and tap the bell so you don't miss future episodes. We share new videos every week, filled with mindful tips on eating well, aging gracefully, and living fully. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of your body, trust your experience, and always, always keep learning. I'll see you in the next one.